Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jameson Keller with AgencyRM. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we have the pleasure of being with Chris York of Kramer Direct. Chris is an expert in the marketing business. He is here to lead us on a webinar about building a successful marketing campaign. This is going to be the first of 3 or 4 in a series about marketing. Watch for emails coming out. Watch our calendar on our website at agencyrm.com. That way you can get an idea as to what additional webinars are coming up. With that, I'd like to introduce Chris York. I've known him for quite some time. The guy is absolutely brilliant when it comes to marketing. His company does wonderful work, and you're going to have the opportunity to both potentially win a 1,000-piece mailer on this call. I'll let Chris talk about that, but also have the opportunity to get AgencyRM preferred pricing on direct marketing or direct mailing through Kramer Direct. With that, Chris, go ahead and take it away.
Hey, Jameson, thank you very much. I assume you can hear me okay, correct?
Yes, sir.
Good. So thank you very much, guys. Yes, my name is Chris York. I am very pleased to be here and part of this webinar today. My goal today is to try to make you guys better and smarter at spending your marketing dollars. Because the one thing I do know for sure is that the biggest part of your overall business expense is marketing. And so our goal on this first webinar that we're going to do together is just say, hey, listen, these are some of the best practices. This is what you should do to build a successful marketing campaign, and I hope you find the information extremely useful. And first, just a little bit, I don't want to do a commercial about Kramer. That's not why I'm here today, but I wanted just to let you know is that we have been around for a long time. We were established over 30 years ago. We work with thousands of individual agents every day, provide them the direct mail. We do direct mail, we have mailing lists, we have seminar solutions, and the best thing is it's all-inclusive pricing. And as Jameson has told you, that we have worked out special pricing for you being associated with AgencyRM. So again, I thank you, and I want to just get started. First of all, let me tell you how the mailer is going to work. So the fact that you're on the phone and that you're registered and you're here means that you're already in for the drawing. So we're going to give away a 1,000-piece mailing. We're going to do our double postcard format. I'll show you what that means in just a little bit, so you'll see how that works. It'll include our standard data. It won't be any modeling on this particular giveaway we're going to do. But you're registered based on the registration information we have. So the email we have when you registered, that's how we're going to use to draw and notify people. We have a webinar today and a webinar on Thursday, and we're going to pick one winner for out of those 2 webinars. All you've got to do to be registered is stay on the end. So hopefully not only will you learn some good information, but get a chance to be involved in the mailing. We're going to draw the winner this Friday, April 5th. And have you ever been involved in mailings and people said, hey, we're going to do a drawing, we're going to give away a free mailing, but you never know who won? So what we're going to do is we're going to announce to everybody who won. We'll announce to everybody who qualified and registered. So thank you very much for that. And we'll remind everybody again at the end. I am very pleased to be here. You know, James and I have known each other a very long time, and I've been in the insurance business for almost 40 years now. You know, and one of the things that I've learned over the years is that the most important thing that you guys need to do as independent people and independent agents working the field is find the most effective way to get in front of as many people as you possibly can. And unfortunately, one of the challenges I think we all have as salespeople, because, you know, we're a little bit AD&D, we're a little bit manic, we tend to be of the moment, and it's really hard for us to sort of sit down and strategize in where we go forward to succeed. You know, to make that work, though, to make the most effective use of your marketing dollars, it's out of Laxley. You got to plan your work and you got to work your plan. Consistency is essential. So think about this. I'm sure that most of you on the call today have done some sort of marketing campaign, whether it's direct mail, emails, or whatever you've done. And typically what happens is you'll order some sort of mail program, and let's talk about that first, I think. So you do a mailing program, and you know, typically you order the mail, it'll go out in the mail, responses back, and normally you won't start getting responses back for 2, sometimes 3 weeks. Most of them don't come in for 4 weeks. So you've got that lull in there before the leads come in. But when they all come in, it's wonderful. You've got people to go see, you call on them, you work all of those leads. That may take you a month, may take you 6 weeks. And then, like most of us, without thinking about it, we say, oh, gosh, I got to do something else, and now I've got to drop another mailing. Well, now what you've got is another 3 to 4 week lull in that mailing. So I think the most important piece of advice I can give you, whatever you're marketing, whether it's direct mail, internet leads, whatever you're doing, be consistent about it. Order levelly so you don't have it up and down. The other thing that's important, particularly about direct mail is, and a lot of other marketing campaigns as well, not everything's perfect. It's not an exact science. So you could do a mailing in an area and you could get a really good response rate. The following time you could do another mailing and it may just totally, completely tank, but the next one you'd get another one. So by being consistent over a period of time, whether it's 6 months or a year or whatever, you can look back, you will get a continuous, steady flow of leads. And that's what's important. And it doesn't take a big budget. Again, I know many of us, it's the biggest part of what we spend to build our business is that. And it doesn't matter if your budget's 1,000 mailers a month or it's 10,000 mailers a month, whatever it is, just be consistent so you have that continuous flow of leads, which means you get continuous appointments and continuous sales. And I struggled with a while to come up with a good analogy of that, and so I just sort of used my own health a little bit. It's kind of like blood pressure. If you think about it, if you've got that steady flow of leads, you're going to be fine. Your blood pressure stays level. It's those up and down spikes that kill you. It's the high activity, the low activity. It's up and down. Your lead program's exactly the same way. So whatever vendor you're working with, whether it's us or whoever, be consistent, work out a drip campaign, whatever your budget is. You don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. You don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars. It's whatever your budget is appropriate to do to get leads to come in and be consistent. Second part of that is you really got to coordinate your strategies and figure out what we're doing. So it's hard to believe we're already through the first quarter of 2019. A lot of people say, oh my gosh, I've already lost 3 months of the year. Well, if you think about it, our business is really a 12-month business. So even if you really haven't started working a campaign yet, don't think of it as you've lost 3 months. Just think of this as the beginning of your 12-month cycle and continue to whatever marketing plan you're doing. But you've got to start now. Whatever you can afford to do, whatever makes sense for you, start it now. So figure out what products you're going to market. There are certainly different times of the year to mail specific campaigns. We all know about AEP. It's a great time to get out and talk about Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement. We all know about aging in. But there are other times of years you can mail other things, like, say, for example, final expense. There's all sorts of things that you can figure out when to drop the appropriate piece of mail and do that. So just figure out what products that you want to market. The other piece of advice I can give you is, a lead in many ways is just simply a way to start a conversation. So if you wanted to get like a high responding lead, for example, maybe you want to mail out a Medicare Supplement lead, or maybe you're working annuities or Medicare Advantage. But the mistake I see a lot of agents make, they will do like a mailing on Medicare Supplement. They'll walk out of the person's house, they walk in, and instead of talking about the product that they started with, they immediately go into what they want to sell. So it's like, I'm here to talk to you about your Medicare Supplement. Oh, by the way, how much money do you have in CDs and in your savings account? And try to go for that large annuity sale. You can't do that. You want to build trust with your customers. So when you send them whatever piece you're sending them, whatever product you're marketing, make sure you take care of that need first. That's why they're there. People are a little bit resident suspicious anyway. You don't want to lose their trust from the very beginning. So build that. So identify your goals. And by identify your goals, I think today the best way to talk that is really, what is it you want to do with your marketing campaign? And for today's purposes, I'm really breaking it into 3 very, very broad categories. So, for example, most of us on the phone here today, and most of us in this business, we talk about lead generation, which is a basically thing. We send out some sort of advertising, whether it's a direct mail, whether it's an internet lead, whatever type we're doing. That response comes back. We call them up, set an appointment, or go see them and go knock on the door and see the people one-on-one. It's a great way to get in front of people, and certainly there are a number of ways to be effective to do that. And we'll talk about other than direct mail a little bit later as well. Do you want to do seminar marketing? Seminar marketing is a tremendous way to market to people. I've been doing seminars my entire career, and whether it's recruiting agents, whether it's Welcome to Medicare, whether it's recruiting pharmacies into Part D in 2005, seminars are a great way to get in front of people. If you've never done them, you just can't jump in and try it on your own, because there's 2 things that are true about seminars. If they go well, they work very, very well. If they go bad, they are horrifically bad. Seminars are they're not cheap. You've got to set up the room. You've got the food a lot of times you're delivering, or snacks, or whatever you're trying to do. It's not an inexpensive proposition. So if you've never done them, but you feel like you want to, Partner up with somebody you already know, or talk to AgencyRM. Maybe they know some people who will help you do that. To figure out a way to jump in and do them. I think they're an effective way to do it. And the third thing is direct consumer. You know, it wasn't too long ago when I used to talk about direct consumer, my thought immediately went to the large telemarketing operations around the country where they're running, they're running TV commercials, they're doing mass mailing, they're doing everything, and they have all these calls coming into them, and they're enrolling. Well, if you think about it today, there are so many companies out there, particularly over the last 5, even 10 years, have now made it possible for you as an individual agent to either take applications from the phone or electronically or do a dual interview with a company and do that. So you actually don't have to be in front of the people. And it works really well, particularly when you have a type of marketing campaign where you can target a specific area. So let's say, for example, you lived in San Antonio, Texas, and if you're a licensed agent in Texas, that means that you can sell really anywhere in the state of Texas. So then you have a very competitive Medicare supplement product, and maybe it's competitive in your area, but you're also looking and you see it's competitive in, say, I don't know, Amarillo, Texas, for example. Well, now those of you that live in Texas, that's a long, long way away. But with today's technology and the ability to take take applications over the phone or electronically, there's nothing that said if you've got a competitive rate in Amarillo that you can't target market to Amarillo, Texas, send out lead programs or other marketing you want to do, have those people call you and actually enroll people from your phone. It's a way to expand beyond your marketplace. Again, you can do one or all three of those, but make sure you just coordinate your strategy so you're staying on point, so you have the right amount of marketing going out on time and doing that. So then once you determine what products you want to market, and you determine where you want to market and how do you want to market, the next thing you want to figure out, well, who do I go and mail? You know, I moved to Clearwater, Florida in 1995, and back then I was working for a very large senior life and health insurance agency. And in Clearwater, Florida, there was something called Top of the World. It's the first time I lived in Florida, so it was kind of unique to me, but it was a huge community center. I mean, I bet it was probably 30 square blocks. It was apartments and condos, and there must have been 10,000 seniors living in that one little community. And back then, you could do just a generic mailing, hit every single mailbox in that community, and you would get a great response rate. Well, today you simply can't do that. There is no one generic, one-piece-fits-all mailing for anybody. So you want to make sure whatever product you're doing the right data. Because there is one thing I know, that if you don't have the right data, without it, you're going to miss your target. And just like that car, you will also be upside down in your marketing budget. Make sure you're matching the data you're going after to the product you're going to. And to give you some examples and maybe some help that'll make it a little bit easier for you, I've broken it down because most of us are in the senior marketplace over 3 broad areas about the differences between Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, and Final Expense. And so again, when you're talking to your lead vendor, and whether it's direct mail or whatever, think of some of these ideas and some of these strategies to help you be better prepared. I think if you look at those 3, you would think immediately there is some similarity between those 3 marketplaces, between Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, Final Expense. They're all kind of the same. But, there's just enough differences that unless you tweak the people that you're going after, tweak your mailing list or your marketing list, it can make some differences for you. So, for example, Medicare Supplement. It's turning 65 is a great market. It's also good for Medicare Advantage as well. Because, we all hear it ad nauseum, 10,000 people a day are turning 65, and there is some truth to that. It's a great market to get in front of them. So if I was going to do Medicare supplement marketing and I was going to turn 65, I'd start at age like 64 in 6 months and mail up to maybe 64 in 11 months. That's a really good window to get in front of people. Now, this is always where somebody at AgencyRM is going to get somebody to call in, well, which one is the best group to mail from? What age group? And you're going to love this answer. It really depends on you and what you're trying to accomplish. A couple of general rules I can give you on an agent in campaign. When you mail the further from their age 65, so let's say, for example, you're mailing people who are 64 and 6 months old you will tend to get a higher response rate because that's when people are starting to shop. Many of them aren't ready to make a decision yet. So you will get a tremendous amount of leads, higher than any other age group in this market. But your conversion rates or your sale to lead rate is not quite as high. Now, there's some good advantages to that. You'll get a lot of people you can talk to. You may be a great salesperson to get in front of them and try to convince them and buy from you now. But a lot of times that will turn into more of a 2 or 3 call close as well, because many people are just shopping. But again, you've got a good group to deal on. As you get closer to the turn 65, you'll see response rates drop. But what happens, they're dropping because people have pretty much finished shopping. And what you'll find is you'll get fewer leads, but your higher conversions will go up. It's never an easy thing to sell. I think when people say, oh, selling in the senior market's easy, we know it's not, but you've got to think about that. So it depends really on your skill set and what you want to do. A lot of leads with a lot of opportunities or fewer leads with a higher conversion rate. It really depends. The other thing that's different than a Medicare supplement from Medicare Advantage is, number one, Medicare Advantage is the biggest thing that they tout is, as we all know, combined in one, Part C and Part D in one benefit. Generally, the premiums are low or very, very low. You don't have a lot. So Medicare supplement, though, the one biggest, other than no network and all the things that make Medicare Advantage a good sale product is, biggest thing is there's a premium charge. But people have to have the ability to pay the premium not only for the Medicare supplement, but also for the standalone Part D. So why would you mail to people who are at a lower income? Why would you mail to people from 0 to 25,000 when those people simply don't have, in most cases, the budget to be able to afford the product? My rule of thumb is that we'll generally start at a $30,000 income and mail $30,000 and up. That's a general rule, and it really depends on a lot of things. So, for example, if you were mailing in Agua Dulce, Texas, and most of you probably don't know where that is, but if you're mailing Agua Dulce, Texas that minimum income you want to mail to may be $20,000. Why? Because cost of Medicare, premiums are cheaper in that area than what have you, so it may not be quite as high. By the same token, if you're mailing into San Francisco, that minimum may be $50,000 because higher cost, higher premium, they need more health care income to afford it. So you should know your marketplace. When you call your vendor, when you talk to anybody and say, this is where I am, what do you suggest? They ought to be able to point you in the right direction and say, hey, this is what other people are doing in your area. We find this is successful, this is working. And if they don't, you're talking to the wrong vendor. It's your money. You have the right to ask those questions to make sure you're getting exactly what you want to spend. We also mail one per household. I think that's a really good thing to do. So typically is, when you mail it to people who are turning 65, it's possible that you'll have a husband and wife who are in the same age group and, they could both qualify within this income and age group. There's no reason to mail to both of them. So when we run across those instances, we'll just mail to one in the household. What that does is it means that you're not spending twice the money to get into that one house. There's no reason to. Now, I hope that makes some sense. But we also typically recommend you default to female first, because studies show that females tend to make the healthcare buying decision and the life insurance buying decision in the household. So again, we try to help you market your dollars a bit more. The other thing about Medicare supplement, if you're doing AEP, Medicare supplement, there's more Medicare supplement sold in the fourth quarter year than any other quarter throughout the year. When you do a quarter-over-quarter comparison. It's a great way to get in front of people. It also gives you the chance to expand your Medicare supplement marketplace beyond the people who are turning 65 because it's open enrollment. So 64 and 6 months up to age 72. You may have a plan G at age 80 for some weird reason that's competitive. Again, the good thing about mailing lists, the good thing about data lists, you can come in and you can pick and choose what you want to mail. If you've got a rate that's competitive from age 66 to 69, only order people 66 to 69 in that area. You can pick by age, you can pick by area, you can pick down to the 5-digit zip code if you want to buy specific. That's what's good today. It's what's really great about marketing and the lists that are available today. But use the same incomes, $30,000 and up, one per household. Again, default to female first. It's for Medicare supplement. Medicare Advantage is a bit different. We've done millions of pieces of mail, not only through Kramer Direct, but another division I work with. I also work with 20 healthcare companies doing marketing and lead generation, new business acquisition for them as well. And the one thing that we found out, before I get that, let me talk about this a bit. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Next thing you want to know is once you mail that, what kind of piece should you mail, correct? And the question I always get asked at this point is, should I do a branded piece? Should I put my picture on it? Should I put my agency name? Should I put the company name? What should I do for it? Typically, unless you're well known in the community and everybody knows who you are, we find if you brand it and personalize it, your response rate will drop. By doing a more generic, no company name, no agent name, unless it's to require no disclosure, none of that stuff you get a high response rate. So, for example, this is a very generic piece that works well. It's turning age 65. This is the front of the mailer. It goes out. It's got a lot of information. Asks for what's your date of birth, what's your spouse's date. It asks information to fill that out and come back in. You notice that there's no phone number or email address. I will tell you, we typically get back about anywhere from 45 to 50% of the leads will come back with a phone number on it, which is really great news. This is also where somebody's going to type in, can I get phone numbers? The answer is yes. But I will tell you this, that phone numbers, particularly today's with do not call tech lists and people getting on do not call lists, you're typically going to find is that on a mail list, you will only get anywhere from 20 to 25% of the names that you request on the list will have the phone number on it. And that generally does cost more. So if you want to do that, you can. But the way these mailers are designed is you will get a good group of people who will send you your phone number. But this Medicare supplement, again, it's a very generic piece. You see there's no branding on it. You know, when it talks again about returning a post-haste reply card for your free Medicare supplement comparison, and it tells them, return within 5 days and receive a price and benefit comparison of the plans in your area for your zip code. People know why they're going to do. It's just generic enough, no company name, no personal branding that you all is, that it will tend to give a higher response rate. On Medicare supplement, aging in January to August is great. AEP September to November is great. Typically, early part of December is not a great month to mail because people have gone through the AEP period and response rates are down. You always want to pick up and try to be in the mail the 1st of January again so you can plan it that way. But this is a great Medicare supplement. I always want to say go as generic as you possibly can because your response rates will tend to be higher and get you in front of more people. Medicare Advantage is just a little bit different. During AEP, you want to mail the same thing is. The big difference is on incomes. I always recommend you mail 0 to 125,000. Why cut it off at 125,000? Because of the million pieces of mail that we've done in the Medicare Advantage market over the last 10 years is there's one thing that we can tell without doubt across the states is that 125,000 response rates just tank. They drop down to the great abyss. So there's no need to go and market to that group when you're not going to get a bang for your buck. What you'll see typically if you mail this, you'll see your highest response rates under $20,000 on a Medicare Advantage mailing. Typically, again, it'll peak somewhere around 50 to 60,000 and then level off. Like I said, again, it drops at about it drops at 125,000. So open that up as well as if you want to. So it's a little bit different income to go on. Again, we do one per household, default to female first. And then at aging in, again, you can do the same type of thing, the same incomes and the same group and the same ages as well. You know, the one thing I did include in here today is there's also obviously a lot of talk out there about mailing to dual eligibles and D-SNPs. And while I don't want to talk about it here today, there's some really neat things that you can do. There's some model data out there to help you go after people who are dual qualified. And by dual qualified, it's, they're Medicare and Medicaid. It's not as simple just to say I'm going to mail to people who are $15,000 and left. Not all of them are on Medicaid as well. So there's some modeling out there that will help you identify them. So that's something we didn't talk about before this, but that is certainly another market to talk about in the D-SNP market. And there's one other Medicare Advantage pieces. Again, they tend to be a little bit more generic because they tend to have more regulations. Although CMS has freed up a lot of the regulations and don't make it as onerous as they used to, there are still certain things that you have to do to get permission to call back, that type of thing. You want to be at home starting October 1st. But there are all sorts of different mailers. But again, it's the same look, generic, non-company specific, non-agent specific. It's the best way to get in front of more people. One of the advantages that I also have, and again, I apologize for not talking to AgencyRM about this ahead of time, but I was at a conference in Las Vegas earlier this year. And one of the good things about the conferences you go to, you get to learn a lot of information. And one of the things they bet to talk about more and more and more is this late to Medicare model. which means more and more people are not doing the traditional retirement age 65. They're actually delaying when they get Social Security and when they sign up for Medicare. So, for example, right now, people born today we have to, who are turning 65, 66 right now, don't get full Social Security benefits till age 66. So a lot of people are delaying until that to do that. The other reason people are delaying is right now the economy is just really well, and it's easier for everybody, even people in their 60s, to stay employed and get work. So they don't need to get on Social Security. They don't need to start Medicare. The trouble is it's hard to find those people because there's not a list out there that says they're not on Medicare, they haven't signed up for Social Security. But through the wonders of data modeling there are some new models out there that are late to Medicare models. And essentially what that does is that's going to be people who are 66 and 67 who based on modeling and surveying, would be more likely to not have signed up for Medicare or Social Security yet. They're still paying for private insurance. Okay? So one thing I would suggest, we know that turning 65 market works, but when you're doing your marketing campaign, think about taking a piece of it. So one thing I would suggest is, you never want, because this is a relatively new model, and we don't have a lot of personal experience on it yet. One thing I would suggest is when you're doing a marketing campaign to the turning 65 marketplace, whether it's Medicare Advantage or Medicare Supplement, but certainly Medicare Advantage is a great thing to talk about here too. But take a piece of your budget. Anytime you want to try something new, you want to try in a good market, you want to make sure that what is tried and, the marketing you've done tried and true should work. So if you drop, say, a 1,500 mail piece, drop half of it in the market you know is going to get a response, so at least you have some leads to work and mark off that mailing you did. Then take the other half of it and try something new like a Medicare model or maybe a different market to see what kind of response rate you get from there. It's a good way to do your own A/B testing and figure out what's working for you and not. But this is a really interesting thing. There'll be more to come on this, but this is certainly, I think you should think about as you talk to whoever your vendor using for your marketing campaigns. Say, what do you know about this? What can you do? And there's certainly some things I know that we can help you with as well. Finally, very quickly, the thing I like about final expense, the final thing about final expense is that it's not regulated. You can buy it in and out anytime that you want to. There's no AEP. But again, the final expense market's a little bit different. They tend to be lower income. We're finding that $5,000 to $45,000 income range, which again, guys, what's great about day-to-day, you can do specific ages, you can do specific geographies, you can do income ranges. There's a lot of things that you can and can do with data, so you can be the specific. But in the millions of pieces that we've mailed over the years, we have found is that those income ranges from $5,000 to $45,000 really have the highest response rate. And for some weird reason on this is our experience shows that 60 to 64 and then 75 plus have the highest response rates. Now, the others respond very well also. I mean, it's a very good marketplace. I like it. You can get in front of them. It's a good way, again, to start a conversation. Think about how much noise there is in the marketplace for people who are turning 65. Mailboxes are chocked full. My mother-in-law says that she probably gets 10 pieces of mail a day because she's turning 65 in August. And I'm not going to tell you where you live, so nobody will bother her as well. But she's getting a ton of it. So there's just so much stuff there. So if you find a way to maybe get into the household and get a client before that, and a final expense way is a good way to do that. You're in the marketplace, particularly on the Medicare Supplement or the Medicare Advantage, although, again, CMS rules, got to be careful about how you cross-market, obviously. But it's a way to get in front of the people and get out there ahead of that 60 to 64 market, get into the household. It's a great way to do that, to get ahead of the game. Again, it's the same type of mail piece, very generic. I would be in homes January to November. Again, we know that during December, life insurance response rate, people aren't thinking about life insurance at the end of the year. But it's a great way to try to get in front of people to do that. Again, it's a very, very generic mailing. One thing I do know that if you offer some sort of brochure, some sort of advice, something that says, yes, legislation's been passed, we have a new brochure that we want to bring you is. Vendors typically will have these that have been vetted by their compliance departments as well. Will have these brochures available for you to take out and hand to them. But it's a great way, again, to get in front of people and get this offer, the final expense market's a great market. It really is. But again, I go back to what I said earlier at the beginning of this. Whatever piece you mail, make sure when you knock on the door or set your appointment, you're talking to them about what they responded to. Final expense is a great way to get started and get into a home. It would be remiss of me to not talk about other ways to market. Certainly, when we talk about Kramer Direct and what we've done, yes, it is primarily direct mail. But again, my goal here is not to do a commercial for us, but to make you all smarter and better consumers on how you spend your money. So there are many other ways that you could go out there and do campaigning. If you had an unlimited budget, and if you had either partnerships or the technical ability to do all these things on your own, I would highly recommend that you do every one of these. Direct mail is a great way to get started. We know today that still, April 2nd, 2019, direct mail still is the primary way people in the senior market do respond and shop. But it's not the only way. There's a lot of people, obviously, on Facebook and social media. Social media these days is, and I don't know if any of you have done any Facebook advertising, it is very targeted. How many times have you gone on and maybe done a Google search, you go on Facebook, and suddenly you're getting ads in for what you were Google searching for? That's how really sophisticated things like Facebook has gotten. It is a great way to market. Again, if you don't know how to do it, you have to hire somebody to do that for you. It's relatively speaking, once you get up, it's not that expensive. A lot of times the setup tends to be expensive. Internet leads, what's really good about internet leads, for the most part, they are really inexpensive. They're very expensive. There's a reason for that. Generally speaking, the closing ratio is not that great. Internet leads are a little bit funny animals. So it's when you talk about exclusivity and, is this lead mine or whatever. So a lot of times, particularly when you're talking to internet lead providers, you ask them if this is an exclusive lead, and they say, yes, it is. Well, you need to ask them to define exclusive, because to them, sometimes exclusive is maybe 3 or less people are getting the same lead. Okay, so find out about that, which certainly is why they cost. Again, it's a way to talk to people. The other thing about internet leads, if any of you guys have ever worked them or know that, is that those leads have a really good rate when you call them back almost immediately. That's a good thing about internet leads. They're on the lead, they're looking, they know they're shopping now. And if you get that lead and can call them back literally within the hour or within the day, your overall, certainly reception from the people and your ability to get an appointment goes through the roof. The further it goes off, again, it sort of drops off like the Medicare Advantage over $125,000. It's the abyss. But again, it's a good way to talk to people as well. But be careful and ask them about how many other people are getting these leads. For those of you on the phone who still remember newspapers, it is still a good way to get in front of people, particularly if you're doing some seminar marketing or you're doing some other type of general campaign. You're going to be in areas. It's a great way to get in front of that market because seniors still read newspapers. And TV and radio is great as well. There are companies out there that do sell DRT, direct TV leads. And again, it's almost the same thing like an internet lead. What happens is you have to sign up for it. You have to be available on the phone. So when that phone rings, they transfer you to directly. It's not a bad way to do it. The trouble with things, particularly like TV and radio, while they can try to be specific, the market is way general and they can't target in and zone in on exactly where they want to do. Certainly with direct mail and with social media, you have a much better way to try to zero in and target exactly where you want to do and the audience that you want to reach. And finally, the last thing I want to talk to you about is, remember, you got to find the right partner who's really going to help you this. Most of us in the insurance business are independent agents working on our own. And many times you're either working out of your house or a small office someplace, and it's pretty much just you doing your own marketing, doing your own campaigning, and this type of thing. And a lot of times you've got to feel like you're the Lone Ranger out there fighting battles all by yourself. So you want to find partners who can help you. For example, AgencyRM is a tremendous partner. There's a lot of other FMOs out there that certainly do things like, yes, we have high contracts. They give you the contract and you never seem to hear from them again. But you want to find FMOs like AgencyRM that will work with you, give you preferred discounts on vendors. We'll do certain things like this to try to make you more knowledgeable and better at your craft. It's the same thing when you talk to any vendor who is doing your campaigning for them, is doing your marketing for you. It's your money. It's just like your clients who are spending their money with you. They expect a level of service from you and the ability to ask questions that they're unclear on. you should be able to do the last thing. Here's a really good list of questions you need to ask your vendors. Number one, ask them what their historic rate is. Listen, we can all talk about how great we are and how wonderful we are, but the bottom line is that they have to perform. The question is, say, listen, you see this mailing? It's great. So you say you've got an average response rate of 3% on this mailing. That's great. What is it in my area? Because in upstate New York, that may be 4.5%. In Idaho, it may be 0.8%. So ask them, what type of response rate are you getting in my area on this specific mail piece? They ought to be able to tell you that. The other thing is ask them how often they update their lists. You know, the senior market is a transitory market at best. First of all, it's a senior market, so mortality's high. People are dying out of the marketplace. It's also a very transitory market. People move a lot. So if they're not updating their list at least every 30 days, and that's not just going out and doing it, it's doing mail post certification. There's a lot of stuff that goes behind that to make the list as best as it can. No list is perfect. It just doesn't happen. But if you're not doing updates at least every 30 days, you're going to find that a good 10 to 15% of the people on your mail list are not delivered. And that means 10 to 15% of your marketing budget is sitting on the mail room floor not getting done. Most vendors have a basic list that provides you data. And generally it's age, it's name, address, income, gender, other things as well like that. They do have basic lists that they provide. Some tweak up, provide more, and that's good to know. Ask them if they have model data. You know, I talked about the late to Medicare model earlier. You already told you is that I think it's going to be a good one. We don't have enough experience yet to do it, so we're testing it on our own as well. But certainly something to think about. But ask them about model date. If you're looking for a specific, if you're looking for a specific lifestyle, if you're looking for a certain religion, because I know there are other companies out there that are tied to certain fraternal organizations. But if you got some sort of specialty market that you want to go ask them. They probably will have some sort of model that you can do. It will cost you more. It does cost because they got to go out and get that data as well. So you got to weigh that extra cost against the potential return as well. Also find out so how long do you protect your areas? Certainly most of the reputable direct mail vendors, and certainly all the ones that I know, and certainly us, is when you order a lead, when you get that lead is not shared with anybody. It is yours exclusive. And when I talk about exclusive, I'm talking about the definition we all know. That lead is never sold to anybody else. Okay? However, you also want to find out that's great, but I just dropped a 1,000-piece mailing on the Medicare supplement product or Medicare Advantage product. Just dropped a 1,000-piece mailing is. How long is it going to be that you will not remail the same type of product mailing to that same list of people? Find out. And just for example, we protect it for 60 days. So if somebody orders a list from us, we will not mail that same person the same type of product for 60 days. So you have a right to work your leads. You don't want your vendor to be your own competition. When you're doing turning 65 mailings, it's important to be in the house at a specific date. You know, third-class mailing is wonderful and it's inexpensive, but you really have no guarantee. It could be anywhere from 7 to 10 days when it's gone to the mail place. It'll be in the homes. When it goes out first class, and those formats that I showed you a little bit earlier, we call those our double postcard formats. Those go out first-class mailing. So they're mailed first class. The business reply cards come back first class. So we talked about, you don't want the peaks and valleys and lows. You really want to be able to plan when you can be in the homes and not be in the homes. By first class mail we know that when we drop something in the mail, it's in the homes 2 to 3 days later. Because the business reply cards come back first class, they start coming back within 7 to 10 days, and most of them are back within 2 to 3 weeks. Some straggle into the fourth week. So first class is important, and if they do it right, it doesn't cost any more than standard pre-sort mail. It just depends how they do it. You also want your leads delivered to you daily. I mean, the last thing you want is, you can have the leads come back to you, but then you have to get a P.O. box, you have to pay the meters, you have to pay the postage and all that. What you want them to do is you want the lead to go back to the person who's doing the mailing, so it's on their dime. And you then want to be able to have them scan in the leads every day and deliver them to you every day electronically, not only a list, but also an image. So when you knock on the door and they say, I don't remember I mailed that, you hold up a copy of the reply card and say, well, Mr. Smith, it looks like your wife sent this in. Here's her signature. So it helps. So you want those to come back to you so you can turn around timely. I also want to know if they have some sort of CRM or customer management system so you can track it and your leads will always be there, and you can go in at any time and find out, again, how many leads have come in, get another copy of them. There's all sorts of things you want them to be able to do that, and a number of them have that. And finally, you want to make the best possible thing you can of a mailing. That would be like a closest neighborhood. It's like a mapping program. Now, this is not available for Medicare Advantage because you still can't do cold calling. But think about this. If you dropped a mailing, we know that anywhere from 96 to 97% of the people you mail to are not going to respond. But they got the mailer. So a neighborhood mapping program would be that if you get the mail piece, you go and you click on it, and it shows you a map of the person who responded. Then it shows you within a quarter-mile up to a 5-mile radius of the people who got the mailing who didn't respond. So then you can go in, go see me, knock on my door, talk to me because I responded. They go literally look at your map and go 3 doors down to somebody who got the mailer but didn't respond, knock on the door if your local laws allow it, answer the door and say, Mr. Jones, the reason I'm here, I was in the neighborhood up there talking to Mr. York. He, like you got the same mailer a couple of days ago. You're one of the few people to reply. I'm in the neighborhood. I'd like to talk to you about our services. May I come in? And it's really a good way to get the maximum use of your mail list knowing they've got it. Okay? So keep those things in mind. Ask those questions of all of your vendors what they do. And finally, we talk about a good partner. You want a good partner. You want somebody who's going to work with you and help you. And certainly AgencyRM is as good as partners you're going to find. Because, again, it's not just contracting. It's doing services like today that I hope you found valuable, that type of thing. But here's their contact information, again, to go back to them to find about special pricing and other things. And, again, just to remind you, because you've made it through this far, you've all qualified for the mailing, and we'll be pulling that on Friday to get it around to everybody. And, again, we've got the things that we do there. So, Jameson, I think that I have managed to take up a good part of this time. It took a little bit longer than I thought, but I'm certainly here available to see if anybody has any questions and take as much time as people need to answer them. I'm available for as long as you guys need me.
Thank you very much, Chris. That was fantastic. At this point, if you have a question that you'd like to ask, you can do this in one of two ways. You can either press the button that says raise hand. We'll be able to see that your hand has been raised, and we'll be able to pull you off of mute so that you can ask your question live on the air. Otherwise, you can go ahead and type any questions that you may have into the chat box. While you're getting that going and thinking about your questions, I just want to make a few comments. First off, Chris, thank you very much for all of your comments about AgencyRM. I did not know those were coming, and so that was quite nice. But one thing I did really appreciate was you said that you don't want your vendor to be your competition. And this is something we absolutely believe in. It's one of the things we think about when we select preferred vendors to offer out to our agent community. AgencyRM doesn't believe in competing with our agents. We don't sell against you. Same thing with selecting a vendor. Somebody like Kramer Direct, who is not selling that same person for the same type of mailing 6 different times in a week, is certainly providing you a much better value than somebody who is. So think about that as you're selecting your vendors. Now, if you're interested in the AgencyRM pricing using Kramer Direct, you can access all of our discount programs by going to agencyrm.com, hover over the thing that says Tools at the top of the screen, and then select Agent Login. And you're going to use your myagencyrm.com login information. You'll be able to then get in and see all of the stuff that we've stuck behind a firewall, which is multiple discount programs, including Kramer Direct, a web vendor that does websites, things along those lines. We've got a lead vendor as well that if you're looking to purchase internet leads specifically. You can also call AgencyRM, 855-721-8088, and we'd be happy to help you in any way. I'm not seeing any questions that are popping up, but Chris, I wanted to ask you.
Hey, Jameson, there is one question that popped up on my screen from Carol McClure.
Oh, sure.
Asking about if you're using social media, for example, Facebook for marketing, what are the rules surrounding what you are allowed to say? Generally speaking, the normal marketing and advertising rules that apply with any media, whether it's to direct mail, whatever, also apply to social media you're doing as well. So the best thing I could probably talk to you about is, as you're getting into that, who's ever your Facebook vendor or what you're doing, they ought to be able to help you out on that. Unfortunately, I will tell you, I'm not an expert in Facebook, so the simplest thing I could have said, I don't know your answer, Carol. I'm sorry. Okay.
So AgencyRM is an expert in compliance, and so you can always reach out to us at 855-721-8088, or you can email us at compliance@agencyrm.com with any compliance needs, questions, or concerns that you may have. Generally, you're right though, Chris. If you're putting something on Facebook, it does generally follow the same rules as traditional marketing. So if you're going to put any benefit information, it's going to need CMS approval. If you're going to put any carrier-specific names or information, you generally need carrier approval. Take it from me, you never want to use a carrier's logo or their brand without having their express written permission. That can get you in a lot of trouble. If you want to put something on Facebook that you think might require some sort of compliance review, feel free to send that to us at compliance@agencyrm.com or give us a call and we'll be happy to chat with you about that. We do have another vendor by the name of Agent Methods that does work digital marketing and digital media. They can help you get set up with a website. They can help you get set up with social media marketing and email marketing and things along those lines. And so feel free to reach out to that vendor using that section of our website that I described earlier. But you know, direct mail is still certainly the workhorse of the marketing business and the marketing community. There's a reason that so many carriers send out so much mail and that your clients get stacks and stacks and stacks of mail every single year. The key is, how do you make your piece stand out? How do you make your piece work? And the way that marketing vendors and marketers have figured this out is through a lot of testing. All right, they'll put two pieces out to the exact same audience and see which piece gets better response, and they'll take that and they'll put another piece up against it, and just keep going back, kind of a battle of the marketing pieces to see what works, what doesn't. There's a lot of science to marketing, and so you know, it's not just who you send it to, but it's also what you're sending. And Kramer Direct has, what did you say, Chris? 40 years in experience.
Kramer Direct's been in business for almost 35 years.
Okay, that's so 35 years of experience doing this to find out what works, and they're constantly testing, and carriers are spending a lot of money to test things, and they're, you know, Kramer Direct goes to all these same conferences that a lot of other marketers go to so they can find what are the best possible methods from which to gain. So you can do marketing on your own. You can certainly develop a piece and get it approved if it needs approval and send it out, you know, buy a list and send something out. But your list is going to age. You're not going to benefit from predictive modeling. You're not going to benefit from A/B testing over time. There's a lot of expertise that you're missing out on. And frankly, the cost of doing direct mail is not that high when you use somebody like Kramer Direct. It's a 1,000-piece mailing is under $500. I mean, you need 1.5 sales generally in order to pay for that. That's pretty easy to do. So I definitely recommend that you check out Kramer Direct and direct mail in general. If you have additional questions, I'm more than happy to help you. Anybody here at AgencyRM is. If we don't have the experience or the answers for you, because nobody ever has all the information, we have a lot of people like Chris in our back pocket that we can pick up the phone and say, let's talk, let's connect you with this agent, let's get these questions answered, so that ultimately we all have the same result, and that's the clients end up getting signed up for the product that is the best fit for them. Chris, do you show any more questions on your end? I'm not seeing anything over here.
I do not.
Okay, folks, well, with that, thank you very much for attending. We will be turning this into a video over the course of probably the next 7 days. If you have any questions, you can always call us at 855-721-8088, or you can email us at any of our AgencyRM addresses, service@agencyrm.com, info@agencyrm.com. We'd be more than happy to help you. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. We'll let you know who wins the drawing on Friday. Thanks, everybody.